Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to HemingwayLand.com, your source for quality, affordable land in the state of New Mexico. New property going live on the website today. This is in a subdivision that we really like because our buyers really like it. Generally speaking, every time I can buy land out there, I do, because these things tend to sell pretty quickly. And it's a region where we could get a nice chunk of land for an inexpensive amount of money and be able to offer to you guys for the same. So with that said, these things don't tend to last very long. So let's get to some property specifics. This is reference number CBNM-71111. Located in Cibola County, out in the western portion of the state, bordering Arizona. This is 2.5 acres in the Pine Meadows Ranch subdivision. And as noted, that 2.5 acres is priced at $3,000. Let's do some more scrolling back down to where I was, to the GPS coordinates here. Click any one of them and it will bring the property up on a map. So, subject property itself sits right here off of Comanche Road, but before we get to that, let's go to map view, let's zoom back a little bit and talk about where this is in New Mexico, for those of you not familiar with Cibola County or Pine Meadows Ranch. So, whether you know the geography of New Mexico or you don't, everybody knows Albuquerque up here in the north central part of the state. Subject property is over here, sitting roughly about 90 miles west of Albuquerque, and if we right-click and measure distance, you can see, hang on, yes, Google backs me up on that, 92 miles. Of course, most of that is along I-40, so most of that is a 70 or 80 mile an hour drive. 40 out to the 53, so presumably you can cover it in under an hour and a half. That being said, that is the approximate distance. As we zoom in here on Cibola County, anybody not familiar with this region should know this is one of these areas where I like to joke there are more cows than people. It's a very rural county. And generally speaking, when we sell land out here, we sell it to people who are hunters or campers, hikers, fishermen, things like that. People who like to experience nature, we will say. So with all that said, it is important to note that there's actually a lot out here in Cibola County to do and see, despite the lack of population density. So for instance, pretty close to the property itself, here is the Moro National Monument. If you pause over this, I'm sure some photos will come up. We also have some in the photo gallery on the listing page. Additionally, the ice caves in the Bandera volcano are located very close by as well. That, of course, is a sight to see. And if we pull back a little bit, you'll see that the property also sits in very close proximity to the Malpais National Monument, the conservation area, the Chain of Craters Wilderness Study Area, so on and so forth. If that is not your jam, we've also got some lakes nearby. We've got the Ramah Reservoir over here for some boating, fishing, general relaxation. And a larger lake located about 25 minutes north of the subject property is up here at the Blue Water Lake State Park, where you, again, will have more opportunities for boating, fishing, jet skiing, things like that. And of course, if we pull back in between all this, sandwiched in between is this giant splotch of green on the map, which of course are the 300,000 acres that make up the Cibola National Forest. Animals that are indigenous to this region that people hunt out here include elk, mule deer, wild turkey. I believe there's some bear out there, etc. So if you are a hunter, the property sits none too far from the entrance to the Cibola National Forest. Excellent opportunities for hunting. If you're not a hunter, of course, there's 7 million trails and campgrounds through here that you can take advantage of. With all that said, let's zoom back in here on the map and talk about the specific property. So, it should be noted this property sits here in the Pine Meadows Ranch subdivision. This area you see cut out here is part of Pine Meadows Ranch. Some of it shows up on Google Maps, some of it doesn't, but it's this area right here. It's roughly about 3,500 acre subdivision. And this specific property is 2.5 acres located here along Comanche Road. And if we go to satellite view, we can see even more. So first off, the property is a corner lot, sits here off of Comanche and this unnamed road. So you have road access along both the northern and western boundaries of the property. Number one. Number two, oh, by the way, guys, hang on, before I get to number two, if you go to map view, of course, you will not see a plat overlay here. So if you want some evidence of the property's exact size, shape, location, you can come down here and look at our Google Earth representation. And if that doesn't do it for you, we also have plat maps. Everybody loves looking at plat maps. I do not understand the appeal, but here you go, guys. That is the subject property right there. Most of this subdivision is broken up into 5-acre lots, which you'll see a lot of down here in these units. These are all 5s, 5, 5, 5, etc. This part of the subdivision was broken down into 2.5-acre lots. So that's what you see up here. Whatever the case, this 2.5-acre lot occupies this amount of space right here. Now, a couple things to note. Number one, Anybody who's thinking about building out here needs to be aware there is no power at the property line. The nearest power is about 1,500 feet south. And if I pull back and then zoom in down here at this thing, you will see that this right here is the nearest power line. For the record, guys, I don't know if you can make it out on the map. Certainly probably not in the video, but if you pull up this map on your own, you can see there's kind of a white line that runs this way from this power line. This is, I guess, Google's representation of a utility easement. Whatever the case, if you follow it, you'll see, hey, there's another power line, and then, hey, there's another one, and so on and so forth. This is not a subdivision in which power is ubiquitous. It's not on every street. It's not servicing every property. It's in areas like this and, you know, throughout. It's not on every road, I guess is my point. But the nearest power, of course, is about 1,500 feet south of this property. These other homesteads that you see, such as this one, this one, many of these people utilize solar power out there to bring power, to bring energy to their homesteads. So that may be a more affordable option for you. If, however, you just won the lottery and want to have power extended from the subject property or from the utility line down here up to the subject property, Continental Divide Electric Company is the, well, company that services this region. We will talk more about them in a second. Next thing I want to show you guys with this is if we hold down Control and then we kind of wiggle the mouse a little bit, you can get a sense of the terrain here of the property. Our photographer reported had a sort of V-shaped topography, so I will just show you guys that it kind of dips down here in the middle and then goes back up toward this way. So highest point is probably right over here. This is probably the lowest point. Might provide you some better views if you build up here. I don't know exactly how much larger it is, but the point is there's kind of a valley right here, and then, you know, 2 hills on the side. So just an FYI. Now, go back to map view for a second because I want to talk about the actual property itself. We're going to bring up the photo gallery. Down here we have, first off, we lead off with the El Morro National Monument. This is the aforementioned, well, national monument that sits very close to the subject property. And then, of course, after this, we have some local color, guys. Local color from nearby El Morro. There's just some cafes, some shops, some things that exist out there, etc. Anyway, as we go through this, this is the entrance to the Pine Meadows Ranch subdivision. This is the sign that you will see as you go in. And this is Wagon Train. Wagon Train is one of the main roads throughout the subdivision, one of the main roads that you would take to the subject property. This is Wagon Train, and then this, hello, here we go, is Comanche Drive. As you can see, barely discernible here on the sign. It says Comanche, I promise. Anyway, this is the road. These roads, of course, are pretty easily navigated by any vehicle type. Of course, as the winter months come, as you get some snowfall out there, you're probably going to want a larger vehicle, SUV, off-road capable, etc. And then as we go through this, we also have some helpful notes here for you guys. Nearest power line, of course, reiterated 1,500 feet south of the subject property. One of the nice things about Pine Meadows Ranch, and specifically this lot, is that there are property boundary markers out there. Here's one of them on the land. Here's another. Generally with these subdivisions, you know, they were platted out decades ago. These boundary markers, usually, number one, usually they're not this large. Usually they're about like this. They're like a stake in the ground. So there's a lot of overgrowth that occurs, a lot of brush, a lot of debris that kind of takes the place of that marker over time, if you can find the thing, number one. Number two, there are also yokels who come along and pull these things out of the ground for no reason. So these still remain intact, still in the ground. So the benefit to you, the buyer, of course, is that you have the boundary markers in place. You won't need to get a survey done. You can very easily discern where your lot begins and ends. As if the road frontage along the northern western boundary weren't helpful enough, we also have the other survey stakes. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, as we go through this, you will see that this is a really picturesque part of the country. Really picturesque part of New Mexico. Now, here's one of the things I want to talk about. So on the map here, you can see along the eastern, basically right at the eastern edge of the property, there looks to be some kind of structure, some kind of thing parked here. It looks like a school bus and maybe a trailer or an RV or something. That's not what it is, number one. But the previous owner had nothing to do with that, and the owner before them apparently had nothing to do with that. It's been out there for a long time, just sitting there. And here is what it looks like today. So I call this the redneck campground, redneck campsite. I don't know what this thing is, what it was supposed to be, what it was eventually going to turn into, but there you go. That's out there. This is on the property, and this is on the property. I presume this is some sort of fire pit or something. I don't know. Point being, we buy these properties as is. We sell them as is. There have been occasions where we have gotten properties that have had A lot of debris, a lot of trash on them. We've paid people to remove them because it was just too terrible to look at. This is not one of those. And generally speaking, the buyers who tend to like, there are buyers who like this kind of stuff. Maybe you're watching this video like, why would I buy this garbage? There are people who tend to like buying these types of properties because for some people it's like hidden treasure. Other people are like MacGyver, and if you give them a magnet and a couple sticks of chewing gum, they can improvise an explosive device. So something like this is, oh my God, all this free stuff. Anyway, the point is we don't judge, but we also don't get it removed. We leave it out there. Anyway, as we go through the photo gallery, you will see even more of the land. You can see a little bit of the dip, a little bit of the hills and the valleys that I was talking about earlier with this property, etc. Now, as noted, this is in the Pine Meadows Ranch subdivision. I'm going to continue just to go through the photos here as I talk about this. Generally, whenever we buy into subdivision, we like to look at the covenants and restrictions that exist out there that come with the land. Our buyers need to know things like this. Can I build this? Can I not build this? So on and so forth. It should be noted that Pine Meadows Ranch was created with covenants and restrictions many decades ago. None of them seem to be enforced right now, as evidenced by the structure that's been half built on the property for the last decade. So we have a list of the covenants and restrictions here on the website. My guess is these are all antiquated and no one is enforcing them from all the evidence I have ever seen of buying land out there and from the structures I have seen built out there. I can't believe that there are any covenants or restrictions being enforced, particularly in regards to what gets built or what doesn't get built. So it should be noted that Cibola County is one that doesn't have a formal zoning ordinance. They defer to their subdivisions. They defer to their property owners associations. And if the POA isn't doing much, like it seems they're not out here in Pine Meadows Ranch, you're pretty much able to do whatever you want as far as unconventional structures, tiny homes, shipping container homes, live out of an RV. I'm sure there's some people doing that out there, etc. Now, with all that said, it is always good to contact the Property Owners Association in advance, kind of talk to them about your plans, see if anybody's going to raise any objections. This POA seems to exist solely for the purpose of collecting money for road maintenance dues. There's an obligatory $50 annually to help keep up the roads out there, which of course is not too bad. $50 annually for road maintenance in the entirety of that 3,500 acre subdivision. I think that's a pretty good deal. Anyway, with all that said, I will let you guys continue to go through the photo gallery on your own. I think I've exhausted all the... Yes, there we go. All right, and let's go up here just to county contact information. We have a link here, number one, to the Pine Meadows Ranch Property Owner Association and their Facebook group. So if you click on this, it's going to bring up their website. As you can see, the website does not get updated very often. So theoretically, there's information here. Practically speaking, there's not much. That being said, you can reach out to some of the POA members, and you can kind of talk to them if you want in advance. Hey, I'm looking to buy some land in your area. It's a 2.5 acre lot. I'm wondering if I can do X, Y, and Z on that property. Might be a good conversation to have in advance. Number one. Number two, we also, of course, have the aforementioned Facebook group here. It looks to me like this does not, it looks to me like it gets updated about as often as the other website. So these are the best resources we're able to find online for this. Hopefully that helps you. But that being said, from everything we've seen at the subdivision, most likely whatever your plans are, you'll be able to do. Now, I also mentioned the covenants and restrictions. If you come up here and click this PDF, it's going to bring up the exact list of these covenants and restrictions from when this area was built back in the late 70s, during the Carter administration. And if you scroll through these, you'll notice it's 9 pages, and you may think, oh my God, 9 pages, that's so daunting, all these onerous restrictions. It's really not. A lot of this is logical. A lot of this is about garbage and refuse disposal, nuisance, fire regulations. You're in a forested area, so obviously there's going to be fire regulations. A lot of this is just logical, good neighbor stuff. They do make mention in here early on about something about having some sort of land use and buildings quality control committee. Hello, accident. Quality control committee. You'll see that a lot mentioning in property owners associations. They'll have something like that. Again, they may have had that in 1979. I don't believe they have that now, 40-some years later. So things to keep in mind. With all that said, I just want to point you guys to another couple helpful links that we have down here. Again, the Continental Divide Electric Cooperative. If you click that, it'll take you to their website. If you do want to reach out to them and talk about getting power extended to the subject property, hey, I'm buying some land at Pine Meadows Ranch. It's about 1,500 feet away from your nearest power line. What's that going to cost to get extended out to my property? How many power poles am I paying for? Etc. Maybe a conversation you want to have as you're sort of budgeting out the benefits and drawbacks of solar versus getting hooked up to the grid. Number one. Number 2, guys, we also have, as always, the Office of the State Engineer. This is the organization in New Mexico that controls permitting and well rights. Permitting and well rights for commercial and residential wells within the state. So if you feel like you're going to be drilling a well on this property, these are the people who are ultimately going to permit that, and people you may want to talk to about that sort of thing. Now, questions about water table depth. They have logs on this website that will point you to wells in the region, quote unquote, in the region, and how far down had to be drilled to get water from those various wells. It's never a hard and fast type of thing. It's never hard and fast like I can point to this property and tell you it's definitely 100 feet down. So generally speaking, we don't like to opine on that topic. We like to let the buyer do their own due diligence. That being said, generally calling local vendors, people who drill wells in the region, can help get you that answer. You know, I'm sure anybody who drills a well out there knows what Pine Meadows Ranch is, and if you say, hey, I'm looking to buy some land out there, you know, generally speaking, what's the cost, what's the water table depth, how far down do I have to drill, and what's the price per foot of drilling? Those are good questions to have in advance of purchase with a well driller out there. Should also be noted, and we actually make mention of this here in the property specific notes, the local tribe out there, I believe the Navajo tribe out there, has water that yes, here we go. First of all, the Property Owners Association has a communal well, number 1. So if you do want to talk to them about that, it's probably an extra X amount a year, but you can get water from that. Number 1. Number 2, as we make mention of here, the Navajo tribe, local Navajo tribe, sells and delivers water. So if you're going to be using a holding tank on the property, you may want to contact them and do business with them, etc. With all that said, guys, if this property is of interest to you, just come up here, click the Buy Now button. It'll take you to a secure checkout page where we're going to ask you a couple questions for the purposes of conveying the land, legal name for deed, tax address, where's Cibola County going to send the yearly tax bill, etc. Agree to our terms of service. Click Next. On the next page, you can enter credit or debit card information to purchase the property outright. For the record, guys, we are the owners of the land. We are not agents. We are not brokers. We own the property. This is for sale by owners. So once you give us money, as far as we are concerned, you are the new owner. Practically speaking, however, it takes about 3 weeks before you will have a hard copy of the recorded deed in your hand. The way that process works is once you give us money, within 24 hours, we're going to have a new deed, new documentation to you within an email. Once you approve it, once you tell us we spelled your name right and your kid's name's right, we're going to autograph it, notarize it, and mail it off to Cibola County to be recorded. We're going to include a little envelope with it for them. They're going to stick the deed back in that envelope, and they're going to forward it on to you. So, as noted, it's yours once you give us money. Go out there, start, knock yourself out, enjoy yourself, start building, start hanging out, start, doing whatever. But the point is, it's going to be about 3 weeks before you will have that document in your hands. Anyway, with all that said, guys, thanks for watching. Hope this one is of interest. As noted, we sell a lot of properties in Pine Meadows Ranch, and they tend to sell pretty quickly. So if it is of interest, I would encourage you to do your due diligence sooner rather than later. If you have any questions, leave us a message here on the YouTube. Shoot us an email, support@hemingwayland.com. Or as always, guys, the phone is always open, 702-919-7170. Thanks for watching, guys.